Good evening and welcome to ASU Kerr's Gather, a storytelling series where we believe that everyone is a storyteller. Special thanks to all of the faithful viewers who keep coming back for more. The theme for tonight is Go Back and Get It, which comes from Sankofa, a word in the Twi language of Ghana, which translates to return, to go, to fetch. We have a dynamic lineup for you tonight, and I am excited for you all to hear the stories. Be sure to tune in next month on September 23rd for the sixth installment for Gather, themed Remember When. But for now, we have the HB hosting tonight. Enjoy the show. I give you HB.
How you doing, everybody? Good evening and welcome to ASU Kerr's Gather, a storytelling series where we believe everyone is a storyteller. We seek to create a platform that facilitates the expansion and crafting of narratives that connect and inspire. My name is Harold Branch, better known as HB, and I am honored to be your host this evening. For those who don't know me, I'm a lifelong poet, spoken word artist who has been running open mics since my proud ASU undergrad days, which was a long time ago. I also spend my time as a family coach, facilitator, and speaker, but most importantly, I'm a proud dad of my 15-year-old son and 11-year-old daughter, Quattro and Ella. Oh yeah, I had the pleasure of doing my first formal storytelling right here just a month ago. It was awesome. So thanks, Gather, and thank you, Kerr. You are in for a huge treat tonight. We have a beautiful lineup. The theme tonight is Go Back and Get It As You Heard. During the show, show your love to the artist via smiley face, thumbs up, hearts, snaps, claps, or type a few comments. Whatever you can do to show your love. This is how we show love to all of our storytellers in this virtual space these days. Tonight, we'll be featuring 3 storytellers, followed by a 15-minute Q&A with the artist. If you have any questions you'd like to ask, be sure to submit them in the chat. Okay, our first storyteller is Habiba Babazi. Habiba was born in the Democratic Republic of Congo and raised in Uganda. She arrived in the US in 2018. She currently works as an information security specialist at Arizona Federal Credit Union. She is pursuing an associate degree in cybersecurity at Maricopa Community College. Mbabazi loves singing and dancing and is passionate about talking to people and empowering them to be reminding them how beautiful and worthy they are. She loved telling her story during her Year Up journey. She won the Toastmasters speech competition and went on to be the student keynote speaker at her graduation ceremony. That's a big deal. Honestly, hard work, perseverance, love, and harmony are her major values in life. She's very grateful for everything she has accomplished and prays to keep being herself without fear. And now, Habiba Mbabazi.
Growing up in the motherland, Africa, Uganda to be exact, I was very confident, happier, and more joyful. I had so many friends who loved me for who I am. We used to play dodgeball and we used to make our own balls because we didn't have money to buy them. We used to make our own balls from as many bags as we could collect from trash that is thrown away. We used to make our own dolls because we are girls, so we loved dolls from banana fibers. It was amazing. It was such an amazing experience growing up, not having to worry about anything, paying bills on time, nor going to school all the time, working all the time. It was just an amazing experience growing up. Despite the poverty and lack of opportunities in my country, we were really happy. I was happy with the little that we had. But since we came from Congo and we were refugees, we had to be resettled to the United States. And also growing up and realizing that there was no food and it was just a very hard life to live, we had to come to America, the land of opportunity. We used to think it's heaven on earth. So coming to America, what was in my head was like, go to America and just be the happiest person on earth because you're going to have money, you're going to have everything you've ever dreamed of. Coming to America, though, when I arrived, everything seemed different from what I was expecting. The jokes were different. The language was different. Whatever I had to say, I had to filter because what was right in Uganda wasn't necessarily right here in America. I have to worry about paying bills. I have to worry about going to work every day. I definitely don't feel the sense of belonging here in America. And because I think in a different language, I can speak English, but then I think and reason in a different language. Sometimes I feel misunderstood. Small stuff, things that add up that make me a little bit depressed and feel that I don't belong here is what I want to go back home for. I want to go back to Africa next year, September, and feel the love again, feel the sense of belonging again, and just be happy, and then come back here in America with the power that I need to not feel the need to fit in, but to feel confident enough to stand out and be happy not being the same as other people. Just be confident in my skin and just feel like it's okay to stand out. It's okay not to fit in. And that's what I'm going back to get in my motherland. Thank you.
Oh, man. Thank you. Thank you, Habiba, for that lovely story. It is so important to be confident in who you are. Transitioning to a new home in a new country, that brings its own challenges. Having to contend with differences in culture, that adds a completely new layer to things. So happy that you are planning to go back home and get renewal and regeneration for yourself. That was awesome. That was incredible. Thank you so much. Our next storyteller is Jennifer Ediaboya. Jennifer is a first-gen Nigerian writer currently residing in Brooklyn, New York. You got to say Brooklyn like that, right? Her work is particularly themed around speaking for the strong but silent type, for the women, daughters, sisters, and lovers who are always depended on, but not always heard. When she isn't busy writing, you can find her in the credits of your favorite TV shows as a production accountant. I give you Jennifer Ediaboya.
Me and my mama didn't get along for a very long time. I would see girls on TV say, "My mama is my best friend." I would be like, "Girl, you ain't got no other friend." Now, when I was 6 years old, my mama threw me this really big birthday party. I'm talking huge. We went to the hair salon for the first time, and I had all these pretty women fussing about my hair. My mama sat on a stoop still, on a little stoop, and painted my nails fire engine red. It's just 6. You would think it wasn't that big of a deal, but she wanted to go the distance that day. And I wonder if she did all that because she knew it would be the last time that it would be just us. Because when I was 7, she got pregnant with my brother. She would work weekends as a home health aide, but one Friday we came straight home. And there was this girl in our kitchen, probably about 13, 14 tops. She was my mom's youngest sister, the last of 9. All the late nights, nights away, calling cards on the car floor. It was all to get her here. And when I was 7, I mean, in my mind, I was getting a brother and I was getting a sister all in 1 year. So it was lit. By the time I was 9 years old, my mother had successfully snuck 2 of her sisters into this country. She was raising them both as her daughters. I went from being the only child to the middle child in like 3 years. And honestly, I loved it. Hope and Auntie Joy were my sisters. And they made this village where I felt safe and warm, like the day at the salon. My mother was unfortunately missing from this village. Bringing her sisters here had a very steep price. And she paid it with 18-hour days and very, very short patience. Everything I did was now too childish or trivial for her time. She would say things like, go and show Hope. I just got back from work. Joy, come and get this gift. It came to a point that I just stopped asking her for things, for advice, for help, for anything. As the years went by, I let our gap get further and further. And I allowed Hope and Auntie Joy to fill that void. And I'm sure that deep down we're both thinking, she's not that far. I could always go back and get her, when I have a bit more time. Unfortunately, when I was 18, I came home to an empty house. My sister, Hope, the last of us, had moved out secretly while I was at work. The past had been littered with fights and arguments. Hope and Auntie Joy had said a lot of things that they can never take back. Things like, you cannot force us to do what we don't want to do, Mama. You're not my mother. You are my sister. I can live my life the way I like. No one asked you to help us get paper. They said so much damaging things. The women that had raised me to this point had all severed ties with one another, and they had scorched the earth. I was back to now being the eldest of 3. And the expectations were put on my shoulders like a ton of bricks with no warning. And with the betrayal of her sisters, resentment had burrowed in my mom's heart. And I took the brunt of it. She would say things like, you want to go off and meet boys like Hope, Abi? Or, why can't you act like an adult? You are my eldest. Everything I did was a reminder of them. And everything she said was a reminder of the void the Hope and Joy had left behind. I missed them, but I was furious that they left before I could even get a chance to make my own mistakes. Now I had to pay for theirs. Do this because Hope didn't. Do that because Auntie Joy didn't do it enough. I was in college. I was on track to graduate at 20. I had big plans. But to my mom, it didn't really matter. She was so hell-bent on proving she could get it right with one of us that she didn't even know that she already had. And maybe too much time had passed. But instead of me to try to build what we had lost, I left for New York. By the time I was 25, I had been away from home for 2 years and I had no plans on going back. The void was huge now, but I could see my mama calling me every Sunday, making sure I had eaten. I was making friends. Work wasn't too stressful. We'd FaceTime and she'd say things like, where are you going for dinner? What shoes are you wearing with that outfit? That red will look very good on you. She was trying, getting close to me the only way she knew how, but I was cold. I was distant. I was annoyed at her incessant calling. All I had wanted to do was get away from her and to prove I could be better for it. But I wasn't, because I had never lived on my own before. I mean, like, what do you do when your landlord doesn't want to fix the sink? Like, what's a deductible? How do you deal with heartbreak? What do you do when you get laid off? They say when all else fails, you go home. But I didn't know how. I had friends who were teary-eyed calling their moms, and I couldn't even pick up the phone. And it took me being at my level to remember who had my back from the beginning. And it must be mother's intuition because she knew it too. And no matter how many times I had denied her calls, she never denied mine. And had she not picked up the phone that day, I don't know if I would still be here. I think 9 tomorrow. And my mother and I have worked on our relationship like it was a full-time job. And even now it's far from perfect. Therapy helps. Fighting also helps. But it's deliberate, this work. It's not one-sided. Opening up to your child about your life and decisions you've made cannot be easy. And I don't punish her for doing what she felt she had to do for us and her family. Because who wouldn't do anything for their sister? Because Lord knows I would. And she knows I would. But that price, prepared to just not like my mother anymore. But I remember being 6 and how she sat on that step stool and she painted each and every one of my fingernails fire engine red. So I went back to that because that's my mama. And that's why she went back to.
Wow, Jennifer. Thank you so much. Just thank you for your candor and your vulnerability tonight. I don't know, obviously, but mother and daughter relationships are just so important. And they're not all fairy tales either, obviously. Relationships take work and time. I'm so glad that you and your mother are building and rebuilding, right? Because that's how it goes. Thank you for sharing with us. Thank you. Okay, everyone. Our final storyteller is Christian Roberson. Christian is a technical resident at the Tank. He studied acting and lighting design at the Centenary College of Louisiana. Recent lighting and sound design work for I Favor My Daddy at New York Fringe, Chasm at the Tank, Speak Up, Rise, also at the Tank. Recent performing work at Don Quixote in Man of La Mancha at SLT. Rolling in the Constellations at Art Space, Vice Principal Panch in the 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee at Centenary. Ladies and gentlemen, Christian Roberson.
Hi. At the beginning of 2019, I asked my grandmother for a birthday gift. And I didn't want her to buy a gift for me. I wanted her to make something for me, like literally anything. It didn't matter what it was. I just wanted a piece of home to have with me here in New York. An object that couldn't be manufactured or purchased online. I wanted a memento that represented her. She made a quilt for me, just a regular checkered quilt from patterns she had lying around. I told her to hold on to it because I would come and get it when I visited Louisiana for Christmas. What I didn't know is that my visit for Christmas would also be me coming to Louisiana for her funeral. My first impulse after her death was to find every proof of her existence. I tried calling her phone to hear her voicemail, but it turns out they had her phone shut off pretty quickly. I read through pages of Facebook messages that had collected over the years, all of the chain messages she had forwarded with my way with the title like, "This needs to go viral, please share." Her obsession with sending Facebook stickers that I'm sure she didn't have the full context for. Like a sticker of a Black woman who was just cheering whenever I sent her good news, an upset Angry Birds character if I didn't pick up what she called, warnings that I needed to be careful of Facebook hackers who would add you as a friend and then steal your identity, and little messages that I all took for granted at the time, only responding with curt replies like, "Got it, Grandma," or just a thumbs up. I realized quickly that I needed to find something tactile to preserve her memory, something more than just a picture on my phone. I needed that quilt. The thing I associate most with my home, Shreveport, Louisiana, is that I spent most of my life dreaming of leaving Shreveport, Louisiana. Shreveport is not made up of the jazz and the historic buildings or the green and purple neon lights that New Orleans is filled to the brim with. None of the parades and the flamboyance. Shreveport is beige, just like unbelievably beige. Beige broken roads, beige shopping complex, and these massive beige casinos. And But the family home was different from this, though. A squat house on a half acre of land that was quite literally built by my great-great-grandfather's hands. It was uneven, piecemeal, unique, on the border of the city and the country. I can remember when proper plumbing and a door being added to the bathroom when I was a child. I remember when a church crew came to repaint the home as it hadn't been painted in decades. The old gray paint was peeling and cracking. It was a home that stood as a time capsule of a different era of Black American life, and my grandmother was the steward of this home. I walked through the old home in search of the quilt, but also just to exist in her memory, in the space she had crafted. Pictures of the wall of family members that I had never met, kitschy figurines of Bible narratives, and an endless amount of photo albums. I took a moment, or rather like a couple of hours, to pore over these albums. 60 or 70 years archiving a family that I hadn't experienced personally. When my grandmother and her sisters and brothers and her children and their children all lived in the same neighborhood. Pictures of people in times long gone by the time I ever touched these photos. These were her mementos, her way of preserving the memories in something physical. In her room, I've found videos of every single play or musical I'd ever performed in middle school or high school. And I watched some bits of them. And they're not good. But she was proud of me nonetheless. I found every birthday card I sent her, every drawing I ever made for her, Bibles that I had vandalized when I was bored in church. And I know they were mine because I would always color Jesus in to be Black during sermons instead of paying attention. There was more of me in my grandmother's home than in my own apartment. I couldn't find the quilt. I still don't have the quilt, actually. Someone else in my family had already taken it by the time I flew down to look for it. I did find a more complete picture of my grandmother, however. A picture that I somehow couldn't see through daily phone calls. A picture that only became clear as I walked through her home trying to find a piece of her to hold on to. The picture that became clear as I sat with my cousins after the funeral, watching their children play and chase each other on the same patch of land that we ran across as kids. Same patch of land that my mother and her sisters and their cousins played on. Found out that the thing that my grandmother was most proud of was her family, that we were her living legacy. Don't get me wrong. I'm still on the hunt for that quilt, calling and arguing with family members that they know she made it for me, and that if they don't mail it to me, that I'll come down to Louisiana and take it myself. But I understand now that the gift she left for me was a lifetime of experiences more important than any piece of fabric. Thank you.
Good brother. What a strong and beautiful story. I felt like I was walking through your grandmother's home with you, looking through my family albums and archives, right? I do have to say, I'm sorry to hear about your grandmother and you losing her. But thank you. Thank you for sharing that, just that part of your life with us. You went back home and you found you were already there. I do hope you get that quilt, though. Don't let them keep it. All right, everybody. Now it's time for our Q&A. We've heard the amazing stories of the evening. We want to hear your questions, so be sure to submit them in the chat. We will start with a few of our own questions, though, for the artists and move to audience questions a little bit after that, okay? My first question is for all the artists, all three of you. Listening to all of your stories, it seems like you all went or are going back home for something physically, but also metaphorically. Habiba, you are going back home for comfort and belonging. Jennifer, you're going back home to your mother to build and rebuild your relationship. And Christian, you went back home looking for your grandmother and found yourself. So the question is, why do you think the theme, Go Back and Get It, took shape for all of you in this way? Habiba, why don't you start for us?
The theme took shape for me in this way because this is something I'm missing. This is the only thing. I have a job. I'm going to school. I have my sisters. I have every other thing apart from the sense of belonging. So I feel like that was the thing that I would go back and get for myself.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Jennifer, why don't you go ahead? and offer something.
I was beginning to create a new life for myself. I had left Detroit and I was living in New York now, and I knew that I was moving towards a new stage in my life. And I just felt that it would be hollow if I didn't go back and make sure that what I had with my mother was strong and real and helpful, because that's what that my childhood is my foundation. I can't go back and make that again. So for me to have this gaping hole there, I knew that whatever I created going forward wouldn't last if I didn't go back and take care of what was missing.
Absolutely. No, that makes total sense. That makes total sense. Thank you for that, without a doubt. Christian, what about you, my friend?
The theme for me, it kind of manifested in a way that's like, go back and get it to me. I had to think about it for a while, and like what a journey means. And like, I think like historically and maybe like narratively and like all the stories you read as like a kid, like you go on a journey for something just like vastly important. And I had to find like what was vastly important for me.
Excellent. Excellent. Those are strong answers. I appreciate it. I'm enjoying this a lot, everybody. All right. Now, it also seems like you all went back for one thing, but found something else, right? You had something in mind, but you found something else. What is something that you did not expect to encounter on your journey back? And how has it changed you?
Personally, I haven't gone back yet, but I think I will not find everything the same way, because it's been 2 years, and by the time I go back, it will be 3 years, and so many things could happen in 3 years. So I expect a difference, but let's wait and see, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to see how my friends are. And most of my friends actually have children now. So,
oh, wow.
Yes, I really want to go back and see them. And I'm so excited. Yeah.
I know they'll be happy to see you too. You got nieces and nephews.
Yes.
Excellent. Excellent. Jennifer, what about you?
So my mother is a strong Edo woman. I did not expect me going back and doing something with her that she would be receptive. As I said, we still fight, but we'll fight, and we'll go at it and we'll hang up the phone. And like 2 weeks later, we'll be talking about tomatoes. And then she'll say, I'm sorry for the other day. You were right. And then I'll just be like, what? Because Nigerian parents don't apologize. Nigerian parents apologize by making you food and watching you eat it. And that's pretty much the end of the conversation. You've forgiven them. So for her to apologize for things, for her to hear me and believe what I'm saying and not dismiss it, it's not the woman I knew growing up. So it's interesting meeting to meet Mercy as my mother, not as a person, not as my mother. It's interesting. So it's one of those things, kind of like how Claire Huxtable says on the Cosby Show. She's like, you're my daughter and I like you. And I didn't like my mom for a while. And if we met each other in high school, I would be friends with her. We'd have lunch.
We'll hang out, do brunch.
Yeah, we can hang out. Yeah.
That's huge. That had to be massive. That had to be massive to see that shift. How did that change you, if you don't mind?
I kind of understood her decisions better. I can't say that I would have done the same, but when I learned who my mother was, the person, it helped me understand the decisions that she made. And I didn't want to hold it. I didn't want to hold that in my heart anymore. So as soon as I understood, even if I did not agree, I know where it came from. I know the place where it started, and it helped me let that hurt go better.
That's huge. I'm sure just hearing that story is healing to somebody listening right now.
I hope so.
On. Thank you for that. Thank you. Christian, what about you, my friend?
I think that when I went down, I was like searching for something very external and like outward. I wasn't like didn't go there for any sense of like reflection or self thought. And I think that like being there and being in the room and seeing all those things really like shifted it towards like what this meant for me internally.
Excellent. How are you different after that experience? Or are you different?
I do think I'm a bit different. I do think that I appreciate my family in general a bit more because, like, as I said, I just spent all of my time trying to get away from like Louisiana. And like I was like, well, if the family's not coming to New York, then like it is what it is. But no, I think that I'd like make a bit more effort to stay connected and understanding the importance of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. You find out it's joy in those little places. You know what I mean? Without a doubt. That's huge. Thank you very much. All right, Habib, I got a question for you specifically, okay? All right. I'm sure many of our viewers, we know a lot of our viewers probably found your story relatable, as the United States is supposed to be a melting pot of culture and identity, okay? Why is it important for you to go back home? Why is that important to you?
It's very important to me because I just can't find peace. You know, I just can't find the peace of mind that I need or the sense of belonging that I need. And I feel like going back home and experiencing the same love, the same vibe, the same energy that I was getting will help me come back here with a more relaxed mind and knowing that, yes, home is still there, but you could still stand out and be happy and have peace of mind in a different land. Yes, that's why it's really important.
Oh my God, like a recharge, right?
Yes.
That can give you, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
That's awesome. Let me ask you, because this is a unique experience, right?
Yes.
So, but there are a lot of people that may be here from a foreign country, foreign land. What advice do you have for them, the ones that's longing for home in a foreign space?
The only advice I have for them is it's okay. It's really okay to stand out. You don't have to fit in any way, and home will always be there. You know, home will always be there, and your friends will always be there. They'll always love you. It's just a matter of distance. Yes.
Without a doubt. It's always there, even if you can't see it.
Yes.
Oh, that's huge. That's huge. Y'all changing my life over here. Okay. Beautiful. I got something for you. You have clearly a powerful story. People choking back tears. I mean, we feeling it with you while you telling it. Okay. I hear that your mother was focused on providing, and you had a longing for intimacy. So there's probably missing each other a little bit. This is common in parent-child relationships. I know this. How has learning that your mother was doing what she thought was best changed your outlook on things?
It helped me see her as a person, and I know I keep saying that because that is my mama. And when I say mercy, that's just mercy. And as Jennifer, I've made many, many mistakes. I've been in relationships where I felt that I was doing the right thing, and then later been told like, nah, I was very lonely, or I felt this kind of way. So I know 28, soon to be 29 years of life, I've made numerous mistakes. Like if I had a child today, I don't know what I would do. Like, what's the first step? And I'm putting so much on this person, my mama, but still a person. And when she explained and we talked and I understood where she was coming from, I just felt like, how could I punish her for doing what she felt was right? And I see, I had to go back even further as my grandparents and learning about them and going back to Nigeria and just kind of seeing how my mother was raised. She was raised from a family where it was pretty much just trying to scrounge and get by. She came into this country and found opportunity. And the first thing she did was reach back and get her younger ones so they could have that same opportunity. And when I think about my brother and sister, I would do anything in the world for them. If I was living with my husband and my daughter and my sister called and said she needed a place to stay and to get her life together, there'll be no question. So I couldn't punish her for that because the love I have for my siblings now, I don't know. It would pain me to hear my child tell me that I stumbled as a parent to be a sibling. But I mean, how do you weigh the two?
For sure.
And it became a thing where I felt like I was punishing her for something that I could have easily done, and I didn't want to anymore.
That's huge.
So.
That's huge. How has going back and forth, rebuilding that relationship, added to your life personally?
No, yeah. I love my mama. And I have that relationship with her. She does help me navigate adulthood. I am not a great adult, but she's helping me do all the smart things that I'm supposed to do. And it's like having a guide through life. And if I did it by myself, I don't know if I could. Right. And that's why I get emotional, because I was at a very low point where I didn't know really. I mean, yeah, you know, my father's alive, of course, but my mom is very different. And
for sure,
building that relationship back up with her it's helping me build the life that I was prepared to build without her, even better.
You know that leads me to last question for you right now. All right.
Go ahead.
What advice do you have for someone who may still be stressed about their relationship with their parents? I'm sure that's a lot of people watching right now, you know?
It's a lot. I would say that separation is important. You have to remember that your parents are not superheroes, and they are people, and they have made mistakes. And the same way you've done things that maybe you're not proud of, or you haven't apologized for, they will do the same thing. And I understand that we all assume, like, well, you're the adult, you should know better. Well, we're all adults now. I'm assuming, for those who are asking. So that separation is important. Get to know your parents as themselves first. It helps shed light into their way of thinking and to what decisions that they made that may have affected you. And very importantly, even though this is working out for us, me and my mom, it's okay if it doesn't. Right. It's fine if it doesn't.
Right.
It's not. I would hate to encourage to force something that isn't healthy, but if you're making that decision to move forward and you're realizing that it's not something that is conducive to you being a better person, it's okay to walk away. The same way we walk away from humans who hurt us or do us wrong. It's okay if you do the same thing.
Thank you. That's huge. Keeping it healthy forefront. That's massive. Thank you so much. Christian, all right, got some questions for you. I'm sure whenever many people go back home, I know when I used to go back home to Chicago, we sift through photo albums and scrapbooks and look up photos and all this stuff. What was it like sifting through the years of your childhood, perhaps seeing never before pictures of your family's life? How did that feel, that reconnection, and seeing all these photos?
It is pretty nuts. I feel like you see, like, or at least, man, I mean, the vision of it now, like all my family right now is living in separate like spaces in different states and different cities and stuff like that. But to see all of these people, like seeing I clearly don't have memories of myself as like a baby, but like seeing what the dynamics were there, it's mostly very funny. To see everyone's like different looks, to see their like different attitudes come through in the pictures. It just is a very, it's just such a different picture. Yeah.
Without a doubt. Thank you. Yeah. And how are you keeping the memory of your grandmother alive today? What are you doing to keep that?
Wow. Yeah, no, that's hard. I mostly just like, we all talk about her a lot. We contact her, like we contact about her. I know it's hard. I try to like think about like what one of the biggest things is just that she was she never held her tongue. She could be very mean, but she was very kind. Like okay. she could be very grating in her words, but she would offer you a plate at the same time. She would never stop to help anyone. She also wouldn't stop to insult anyone. So I think that like it's this like weird dynamic of balancing like that like the bitter and sweet nature that like my grandmother had was that like she cared about you, and it might seem a little rough, but she cared, and she cared about everyone. So trying to keep that attitude.
Excellent. That's huge. Thank you. And I'm hearing a common theme of food here. So clearly feeding people helps. Clearly that helps. We do have an audience question, so let's check that out. As storytellers and travelers, how do you feel gaining independence in new cities and countries? And how has that shaped your view of yourself and your family? So how do you feel gaining independence in a new city, being dropped in a new city, dropped in a new country, and how has that shaped your view of yourself and your family? That's great. So let's go ahead and just go backwards. So Christian, why don't you start with that? Then we'll go to Jennifer and then.
It changes so much. I'm trying to like eventually get out of this country because I want to experience the feeling more where like I spent the first, like, I guess, when did I leave? I spent the first 22 years of my life only having been to Arkansas and Louisiana, like not even like a vacation out anywhere. So my perspective of the world was only what that looked like. And even so, like when you go anywhere, it doesn't matter just like how far, the attitudes, the way people interact, the way people live is just different. And that like that can shift like how you see who you are. And like coming up to New York and people ask me about Louisiana, and I'm more proud about Louisiana in New York City than I ever was in Louisiana.
That's huge.
And so
that's big.
Yes, just like it gives you just a lot of perspective to like figure out who you are.
Yeah, that's awesome, brother. Thank you for that. Thank you, Jennifer. What about you?
Because I rep Detroit way more proud now that I'm in New York. I'm like, yes, 313 baby all day.
Right.
Gaining my independence. I'm like the opposite of Christian. I've actually been everywhere and some. Actually, I love to be still in one place. I think leaving Detroit to come here though, and starting something and doing something. It's funny because to go back to my mama's, I am the proof that she can raise some daughters. It's a lot of stuff that even though it was done in a way where we probably fought about it, or it was done in a way where I didn't like to do it or whatever, the lessons that she taught me, even though she was working and trying to provide a life, the lessons that I was taught from her, from Hope, from Auntie Joy, that village that I mentioned, it definitely helped me start something here in New York that I was 23. A lot of 23-year-olds are not doing that at that time. And I think I kind of just took that for granted because I was so angry at her and I wanted to leave and just to show her, not even knowing that all these things that I was taught growing up is the only reason why I was able to come here and start a life in the first place. So I think it helped because it kind of just it kind of gave me more confidence in myself. I came to the city kind of just being like, I hope I make it. I hope I do good. I hope I can do something with my life, and I'm doing it, and I'm making something for myself.
Excellent.
I don't know if I could have done that in Detroit.
Sure.
I think I needed to leave home and try it and test it out. Like leave the nest.
There you go. There you go. That's huge. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Habiba, what about you?
For me, oh my God, coming from Uganda to America has really showed me so much about me. First of all, I never knew I could be a good speaker. I know I talk so much, I talk a lot, but when it comes to talking to people, I never knew I could be a good speaker, and much less speak to people that speak English because of my accent. And also I never knew I could actually change fields, because in Africa I was doing pharmacy. When I came here, I am doing IT. And so I discovered that I'm a good learner. Like I learn so fast. And that was really amazing. Just knowing that I could be versatile in such a way. Yes.
Nice. Excellent. And your voice and accent is wonderful.
Thank you.
right, just throwing it out there. You should know that. We do have a question for you specifically.
Okay.
So, what physical remembrance of Africa, of home, do you cherish while you're here in the U.S.? So, what's the physical thing that's back home that you think about the most, that you cherish while you're here?
Physical thing that is home that I cherish while I'm here is, I wouldn't call my friends physical physical things, but I really miss my friends. And yeah, and also I miss Ramadan. You know, Ramadan back home is different from here. You know, we gather and have food together as a community. You take food to the needy. You basically do community work, which is different here because it's not the same. Muslims here, it's not a big community, especially in Arizona. So that's really something I miss so much back home.
Well, we definitely hope that you get a chance to go back for Ramadan back home, inshallah.
Inshallah. Okay.
Without a doubt. All right. Got another question for everybody. And this is a quick one. So we'll just hit these fast so we can stay on our time frame. Christian, why don't you start? The question is, what are some of the joys you have found recently? Just what are some joys you have recently found?
Just in general, I have started skateboarding. I guess that's like a form of physical. It's just like something that I want to do. Yeah.
Excellent. That's what's up. Jennifer, what about you?
The pandemic. I don't have many.
You gotta let us in your life.
No. Actually, writing this. It was very emotional. I have not written in a long time. And writing this was interesting. It took me a very long time. My boyfriend kept bringing me drinks and water, and he was like, "You got this." My mom was calling, and I'm like, "I can't talk right now. I'm writing." And it was just like the first draft of this was like 5 pages long. And I think I miss just crafting a story again. And it's been a while, you know, everything going on in the world. So just to have a moment and to kind of just get lost in my own words, that was a joyful time. Yeah, I will say.
Nice. Congrats on that. Habiba, what's a joy that you have recently found? Give us some ideas.
I've found joy in my friends that I've found here. I think I have 3 friends. I have Saida, Leticia, and Dahlia. They're so awesome. I love them. They've loved me in a way that I've never expected a human being could love me. Yes, they've welcomed me. They've showed me that, yes, you can have fun. You can trust us. It's okay. You know, you can. They're just amazing. I'm so grateful for my friends. Yes.
There's so many stories in that. You miss your friends, but you feel good and solid here because you found your friends. So as long as you got people, it's good when you like. I could do a whole training on that. So that's huge. That's huge. Christian, I got a question from the audience specifically for you. Do you feel the support that your grandmother showed you is something that you hold on to as an heirloom that you would share with others, like the quilt? So do you feel like you would share, if I'm interpreting this right, do you feel like you would share the support that your grandmother showed you through the quilt, making something very special for you in that way? Even though she could be a tough lady sometimes, we'll say it like that, right? And do you think you could pass on that joy and with others, pass on that heirloom, maybe even share that and tell the story and things like that?
I'll say that like I try to hold on to that in the sense something that I said at the funeral was that my grandmother believed in me more than I ever believed in myself. And so like I would be a 10-year-old on stage and she saw me in New York City then. And I'm not on Broadway, but she saw bigger than I ever saw myself. And so I try to like extend at least that same sort of like empathy and courtesy to everyone else. Like if you have something and like you're in one place now, like there's no reason to ever like stop that sort of energy. And so I at least try to like be encouraging of everyone's like dreams and stuff. That's
massive. That's massive. That's massive. That's massive. Thank you for that. I'm sure they appreciate getting that from you. Jennifer, got a question for you, if you don't mind. Okay. What mistake do you believe your mother made that has guided you the most as an adult? Whether you repeated the mistake or whether you avoided it. But what mistake do you feel like has guided you as an adult the most? It's a good question.
Good question. Communication. I feel we didn't talk. It was just a lesson, a task.
Could you repeat that a little bit?
Sorry, I was saying that I feel like it was just honest. I want to do more honest communication, and it was not something that we really had. We would if she would open the floor for a little talk, a little gisting or whatever, but it really wasn't a natural kind of a thing. Right. And our conversations were more like, here's a lesson, here's a task you got to do, here's a reprimand for you not doing something right before. It wasn't really just like how we talk now, how I just call her and be like, girl, this is what happened today. We didn't have that back and forth. She was just like, it was a mistake that I know that in her mind, I don't have time to sit here and talk with you. I have to go to work. Here's the things you got to do today. Make sure they're done by the time I get back. That was it. It's something that I know that I have had difficulty with having honest communication, but I see how that can affect my relationships in a really bad way. And I want to say in the past maybe 3-4 years, I've been making a really strong point of just talking, of just, hey, this is how I'm feeling today when it comes to us or whatever. Now I talk too much, to be honest, a little too open, but I see that I saw what being strong and silent could mean and how that can be misconstrued across the board, even through your family. And I didn't want to be that person. So
it's huge. That's huge. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that honesty. Saw you searching for it. So I appreciate that without a doubt. All right. This is going to be the last question. All right. This is the last question for everybody. Now, I think this is a absolutely perfect last question. Tell us what storyteller, poet, or author that you love. We got some people looking for some recommendations. So give me a storyteller, give me a poet, give me an author, maybe a screenwriter even, right? Who do you love? Jennifer, I got you here already. We're going to start with you. Then we're going to go to Habiba. Then we're going to end with Kristen. All right.
You already had my favorite girl on here.
Say again?
Moore. You already had my favorite girl, Simone Moore, on here. So you guys have already got my fave. But my other two faves, who when this woman speaks, when this woman talks, you feel it from the inside out. Ashley August is an amazing performer.
All right.
That woman's words, ridiculous. And a screenwriter who I know you guys are all going to know eventually, because there's no way that his work is not going to be recognized. Timothy Dwight. Get ready for him. Okay. Get ready for him. Get ready for him.
Right on. Right on.
So those are my two faves. And they're my faves because they're also my best friends. But I love them. You already had Simone, so I have to give you two other ones. That's all.
Right on. Right on. No, thank you for that. That's huge. Habiba, what about you? Author, poet, writer, you name it.
I think he's more of a speaker. He's called Mufti Menk, Ismail Menk. He is from Zimbabwe, South Africa. He's amazing. He makes, usually we have imams who teach us religion and we feel like we are scared, but he makes it more of God is love. He loves you. And I just love how he speaks. He has a very, I don't know how to even say it, but I just love listening to him all the time.
Excellent. Yes. Thank you. It's good to hear your inspiration. That's awesome. Christian, what about you?
This is gonna be mad corny, but I mean, for me, like the stories that I spend or still spend the most time listening to is I listen to hip hop artists, and I feel like having to like run through the people in my head who I'd considered my favorites of storytelling would be somebody like Andre 3000, and like going back through the way that he specifically just like narratively exists in his own world in hip hop and stuff. And so
that's huge. Andre 3. Absolutely. That's Matt. I appreciate you all. Thank you. This has been a great Q&A. I think we really dug into some things, and anybody watching, I'm sure they got a massive amount from this in all categories, right? So everyone, that concludes our evening. Thank you for tuning in to all the storytellers and the ASU Kerr staff. We are so thankful for all of the faithful Gather viewers that's out there. We will be sure to keep the stories coming. So this is not a one-night thing. This is over and over and over. Be sure to join us next month for the 6th installment of Gather, which will take place on Wednesday, September 13th, 2020. So make sure to lock that into your calendar. The theme is Remember When. The theme is Remember When. Be sure to like the ASU Kerr on Facebook and stay tuned for all of your upcoming programming. And at the end of the day, September 23rd, make sure I got that right. Okay, September 23rd, we got you. So make sure you got that locked in, everybody. And at the end of the day, we look forward to seeing you. Stay tuned. Follow us on Facebook and the social media and all that good stuff. With that said, we are at our time. Have a great rest